Our GMC Sierra tweet of the night goes to the Duquesne basketball team, which won again tonight in dramatic fashion, 83-82. We're going to show you how they did it, a buzzer beater to win that game. They're 4-0 at home this year. Their only loss was at Kentucky. There's no shame in that, as the Dukes and Keith Dambrot have things going early in the season. 412-575-2600. Also tweet at KD Pomp, at Chris Mueller, PGH. Chris now joins us. And Chris, I pretty much summed up my feelings about the Steelers, saying that the offense didn't make the life easy for the defense, which is no excuse for the defense. I get it. But, man, that second half, I couldn't believe how many easy plays for Cincinnati to diagnose. And, you know, it was pretty predictable. We heard players talk about that after the game. I think that made it very difficult on a defense that was in the third quarter at least better than it was in the first half. And then eventually it just got to the point where not converting in touchdowns after turnovers took a toll, I think, on their entire team.
You know, Bob, it's good and glad to talk to you tonight. It's good that you and I don't really debate on this show. We bounce ideas back and forth and occasionally disagree, but we're right on the same kind of wavelength here. This was not about the defense. I thought they played a poor game. By and large, a really poor first half where Kenny Pickett gets 20, but they give up 17. And I know they're the big money unit, but I thought the story of this game last night was what happened in the third quarter. The Steelers get 19 yards of total offense. And even though the defense gave up a long touchdown drive, they had a couple of punts in there that they forced when the offense was sputtering badly. TJ Watt's kind of miracle, unbelievable interception gives them field position at the Cincy 21, and they can't go anywhere with it. 6 more yards and a field goal. I thought that was the story of the game, and I thought what made the story, you know, the offense for the Steelers, or lack thereof, in the second half, is not just that we're all watching Pickett's development and wondering what's happening with that and whether Canada is stunting his growth. It's what Jermaine Pratt says after the game. Yeah, they ran the same stuff, so we knew we didn't really have to do anything to stop them unless they did something different. I mean, Bob, a hallmark of great NFL offenses is that the best ones tend to have about 10 or 15 plays that are their bread and butter. They just run them from different looks to keep the defense honest and keep them off balance. That's what the Rams under McVay at their best have done. How Matt Canada doesn't understand that and doesn't plan accordingly is completely beyond me. As encouraging as that first half was for them on offense, that's how discouraging and then some the second half was.
Yeah, and it didn't make sense because they had all the momentum going into halftime. They had scored right before an interception by Wallace, set up more points, and so you think they're going to get the second half kickoff, and they make a statement right off the bat. They can do that. Coaches talk about that all the time, you know, scoring at the end of the first half, getting the ball at the second half after you defer. They did none of that. A 3-and-out made it pretty simple. And again, even when the defense makes a play, it turns out to be just 3 points in a really pathetic series of events there after that interception by TJ Watt. They're at the 21-yard line, and just a complete overthrow into triple coverage, and everything just looked bad. And I think Cincinnati fed off that. I really do. And I think their defense just, you know, basically at the end was just on the field too much. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't hold the ball for even 100 seconds on any of those third quarter possessions. I don't care how good your defense is. Eventually, they're going to start to wear down. And that's what happened in that second half, especially in that third quarter. I just thought all the momentum shifted. When Watt's interception happened, they could have seized it back and gone back up with a touchdown. You mentioned that triple coverage throw to Gentry that was so off that not even a Bengals defender, Bob, really had a chance at it. We've seen Kenny Pickett make a couple of really bad throws almost every game. Like, there are just ones that are head scratchers. He missed Freiermuth badly in the first half. He missed Pickens on a play that didn't count where it looked like he threw the ball to the wrong side. You know what bothers me about that throw to Gentry, though? Pickett has really become a one-read guy so far. It's not unusual for a rookie, but you'd like to see that start to change with this many game reps. He has Connor Hayward, if he just looks briefly to his right. He has Connor Hayward down on the near side of the field, maybe for a touchdown given the amount of space he had. But Kenny Pickett just doesn't seem capable of consistently finding that second and third read on a game-to-game basis and making teams pay with that.
And I think that comes in time. I'm not going to, immediately come to a conclusion that he's not capable of it. I just think it takes time, especially given what's going on with this offensive coordinator. It looks like they're playing very defensively as an offense at certain times, and I don't think that's good for the growth of any young quarterback. Flea flicker was a big bother play for me, only because they hadn't run the ball at all at that point. And when you make a 33-yard reception and you're knocking on, the door, you're heading toward the red zone, the last thing you want to do is retreat. And they did. They ended up with a 4th and 22 out of that whole situation because they just a flea flicker, which was a botched snap. It had no chance of working. And you give Cincinnati an opportunity there. That was just a bad call at a bad time. That was not the production of a run game that would have invited a little play action or a little trickery.
Well, I mean, the flea flicker it's the whole thing where you can be a good play designer, but you've got to be good at calling plays in the flow of the game. I don't really think Matt Canada is either one, although the plays were good enough. I thought it was mostly on the players making good plays in the second half. Plays were good enough in the first half. Just no feel. None whatsoever. Pickens and Pickett have hooked up on a great throw, great catch. Team desperately needs it. If you're going to take a shot, just make it traditional play action. Seriously. Or get Kenny Pickett something because you have the Bengals a little bit flummoxed, not flummoxed, but flustered and on their heels because they give up that big play on third down. Give Kenny Pickett something easy for 7 or 8 yards. Where are those plays, by the way, in the playbook, Bob? Where are the easy 7 or 8 yarders? I had Monday Night Football on before I came in to come on with you. And I know San Francisco's got Kyle Shanahan, and he is an elite schemer, and he's an elite kind of in-game play caller. But there are so many things that just look easy for Garoppolo, right? There are just little dump-offs where there's Christian McCaffrey standing there. Hey, that's 5 or 6 yards. We'll take it. There just seems to be so little that, almost none of that in the Steelers' offense.
And that's not to excuse the defense because you cannot allow 65 plays and only force 9 third down plays. They were gobbled up in the first and second down on a lot of that, and for a defense that is just supposed to be elite, they didn't do that at all. Let's go to the lines. We got Dennis, in Freedom. Hey, Dennis, how you doing?
How you doing, Bob?
Good, thanks.
I have a question about the rules. That muff punt that rolled back into the end zone, couldn't he have just taken a knee and the ball would have come out to the 20?
You're talking about which one now? Steven Sims? When he did that?
Yeah, Sims muffed it back into the end zone. Well, that happened to the Steelers earlier in the year. They were trying to fall on a football that had been muffed. Was it not? I forget which team they were playing or what game that was. Was it Jets or Patriots? But they were on the
same
coverage
situation,
team.
Right? Yeah.
Dennis is correct there. I think he could have just that was not.
I think he panicked and he figured he had to get it out of the end zone once he muffed it. And when you do that, you're asking for a bad field position. That's exactly what they got. I couldn't also understand when I saw the Buffalo or the Cincinnati returner calls a fair catch after a bounce. I've never seen that. And as soon as that happened, I said, "Whoa, wait a minute." If I were a Steeler player, I would have just taken him out at that point because they knew you couldn't do that, but they were kind of hesitant as well. But I've never seen a guy do that.
You would think Danny Smith has him better drilled than that, right? I mean, the Steelers players, the funniest part was they all stood there and kind of said, like, hey, patted the guy on the helmet. And then no one blew the whistle, and they all tackled him at once, which was very funny. It was about the only kind of levity that you got in that game. But you know what? I'll say this quickly about the special team since we're on the subject. It's sort of a hidden part of the game. Danny Smith's group, forget about not knowing the rules in a given situation or botching some sort of arcane play. They just don't do nearly a good enough job covering kicks, returning kicks, getting those little hidden extra 5-7 yards. The difference between starting at the 25, say, or the 26 on a given return and the 33, you can go look up the numbers, Bob. I'm sure you have. Just those 7 yards of difference makes a big difference in terms of how likely a drive is to succeed. To say nothing of maybe being at the 38 versus the 31-yard line. That's where that group too often falls way short for my particular liking.
Jim in the South Hills is joining us right now on the Sports Call. Hey, Jim.
Yes, good evening, Bob.
Hey.
First-time caller.
Appreciate it.
Hey, really disgusted in watching the Steelers. Secondly, I think it's time for Tomlin and his cohorts to make a disappearing act. And as far as the defense secondary, Mueller, Wallace back there, Sutton. It was like, they want to tackle, but the idea behind them is to either knock down a ball or intercept it, not let the people catch the ball, and they're off of them by 5 to 10 yards.
Well, first of all, Tomlin's not going anywhere. Second of all, he will make changes. If he doesn't, he will be forced to. So I think that'll be the end of Matt Canada here, and there'll be other changes as well. I think that's just part of what happens in the NFL. But I don't know how, Chris, without Jamar Chase and without, for a large part, Joe Mixon, you had to know that T. Higgins was going to be a principal guy for them because he's a big target, and he was. And no matter where he was on the field, he was a factor. Nobody could stop him. They were giving him a lot of, space off the line of scrimmage. whatever the case would be.
Oh, they were going one-on-one with him, Bob. I mean, they were covering him one-on-one still. Where was the extra safety? Where was any help for the guy? Make Tyler Boyd beat you, or if Steve or what? No, not Steve Irwin. I keep wanting to say Crocodile Hunter. Trent Irwin. Make one of those guys. Samaje Perine did beat you, but Bill Belichick's old hallmark is don't let the other team's best weapon beat you. Make them play left-handed to some degree. Okay, don't let T. Higgins beat you. I think Mike Tomlin is a really good defensive mind. I really do. I have other criticisms of him, maybe as a CEO type on game day, some of the things that slipped through the cracks. I think the man knows defense. That makes it such an inexplicable head scratcher that he did not do something in game to start combating T. Higgins. It's like, quickly here, Bob, I know we got to get to a break, but it's like Higgins not doing anything in the first quarter and then exploding starting in the second quarter almost caught the Steelers by surprise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they got lulled to sleep by how quiet he was for the first 15 minutes of the football game.
And again, for a defense that's supposed to be better than this and is paid to be better than this, and without two of their top offensive weapons, come on, you got to take one of those guys out. And Boyd wasn't even a factor until late in the first half. We got to take a break, as Chris said. We'll come back and do more with you at 412-575-2600 right here on the Sports Call Pittsburgh CW. We also do it simulcast on 93.7 The Fan.